Hey guys, out in the garage again today, and I've got the Ram in here. And after 5 years of sitting in my basement, I'm finally going to install this winch and these tow hooks. So I've had these for a long time, just never got around to installing it. We're now on Christmas break, so I've got 10 days off. I'm going to spend some time working on this, so I'm going to get that installed. Alright, so this is a 10,000 pound winch, and it's got this nice fair lead with it. These are actually factory tow hooks that I painted. I bought these just on Marketplace a while back and just never installed them. And since I'm going to be using the mounting points for the tow hooks for the winch itself, I'm going to get those installed at the same time. Now this doesn't come with any mounting plates, so I'm just going to fab up my own stuff. And I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do to mount the actual winch, and I have an idea of what I'm going to do to mount the fair lead. And that I'm going to actually put through the bumper. I'm going to cut a hole big enough, and it's going to be recessed about halfway. Now I have an idea of how to mount both of them, but connecting them I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just going to fab what I need for the winch itself. I'm going to fab what I need for this. And then at the end I'm just going to go and try to connect the two to give this fair lead just a little bit more structure and strength so that it doesn't bend, it doesn't pull off my bumper if I'm doing a bit of a side pull or something like that. Okay, if we slide under the truck here, we can see a mounting point here for the tow hooks. So those actually go through the hole here. We've got two bolts that they mount on and this lower bolt here. So I'm going to run a plate from here to the other side, and I'm going to add a tubing on the top and with little plates here that are going to mount on the side that's going to keep it from twisting. Tubing across, then I'm going to put a plate in the back that the winch is going to mount to, and I'm going to mount the winch 90 degrees. So the winch is meant to be mounted like this with the wire coming out the bottom. I'm actually going to mount it forward 90 degrees. And I'm going to come out through here instead, which is probably not going to be too happy about, but that's how I want to mount it, so that I've got the release on the front. And I'm going to remove this, and I'm actually going to get a custom rod made that can go through the bumpers, so I can release this right from the front of the truck and not have to crawl underneath. So because the mounting bolts are in the back here now, my plate is going to go vertical, and I'm going to bolt on that way. So I imagine this should work fine in this position. And now for the fair lead. My plan is to bolt in here as well, where the tow hook is bolted. And I'm going to run a plate right across here again, just like I did on the other side, with a tubing along here. And then I'm going to drop some plates down for that fair lead to connect to. Now that's going to hold it in place, and it's going to give it a bit of strength this way, but it's not going to be able to keep it from twisting. And that's where I said that once I do get the winch installed here, then I'm going to run some little braces back to that main plate and stiffen everything up. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to start cutting up some steel. I don't really have any drawings or anything. I'm just going to build it as I go. But start cutting and putting stuff in and see how that goes. Okay, so I've got the first piece all test fit up, so let's go see how that fits. Alright, so we can see that in place there, and that winch is going to mount horizontally right in front, and that's going to help cut down the amount of space that I have to fill between the winch and the fair lead. So I think that fits real good, so I'm going to pull that out and get a coat of paint on it while I start the front section. Okay, while I wait for that front mount to dry, I'm going to install the main mount. Okay, so I've got the winch installed there, and we can see it peeking through the hole here. Now I did notice something that might be a bit of an issue, and I'll see in just a minute. So if I get underneath here, we can see where that handle for engaging and disengaging the clutch, and where that aligns with these bolts on the side here. And this is where I'm going to have that front mount, and I think it's going to hit right there. Even these springs might be kind of close, but like I said before, I'm planning on removing this handle anyway, and I'm going to run a straight rod, so I may just have to drill a hole in that mounting plate and beef it up around that hole. But we're going to see. Right now I'm just going to switch it to disengage, and I'm going to feed out the cable a little bit later. But for now I might just pull that handle off just so I can get the plate in there, and I'll figure out a solution later. Alright, let's see if we can get that front mount installed. Alright, so I've got that installed now, and I'm really happy with how that looks. I just put the hook on. I can't clip it on to anything because I can't reach that clutch anymore to disengage it, so I'm going to have to get the electrical done. So let's just have a little look here. So we can see the front mount where the fair lead attaches, and we can see it's so close, it's just touching those springs up front, but it's not pushing on them. They're able to do what they're supposed to do. Now the wire is going to rub a little bit on this lower bar, but I'm going to have to leave that. There's not much I can do about it. It's pretty tight quarters. We can see here the winch is mounted on that back piece, so everything's still functional. So the next thing I'm going to do is run a brace from the front mount to the back mount, just to stiffen up, so there's not too much stress on that front fair lead and that front mount, because it's only 1/4 inch flat bar in the front here. So I think what I might do is run a flat bar from here right to the here, so just a straight flat bar, and we'll see how much that'll stiffen things up, because it's nice and stiff here, and we've got a brace going back with the actual tow hooks. We just need a little bit of bracing here in the center just to keep that from flexing. Well, I think I found a solution for the handle that I need to put on there. So this is the handle that it comes with. And what I'm thinking of doing is using an old shitty extension. Got this wobble extension, which I hate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, and I'm just going to grind out a notch similar to this and try to file that little bit of a bump. And on the end, I'm going to do my best to replicate that little circle, that little dimple there, and see if I can't cut a little bit of a groove for an O-ring. So kind of primitive machining that I'll see if what I can do on my vise. So in the meantime, I'm going to drill a hole through the bumper so that this can go through. And my plan is just to leave this like pretty much flush with the bumper, maybe a little bit sticking out. And anytime I want to engage or disengage, I just got to put something in there, give it a little rotate. And if I don't like that, I can always weld something on the end. But I'm thinking that just leaving that in there and having a little ratchet or something to engage and disengage will be fine. I always have a tool set inside the truck, so I'm going to give that a shot. So for now, I'm just going to drill a hole first through the bumper and see if I have a drill bit long enough to drill into that mount so I can clear right through to the winch. Okay, so let's see what we can do now to try to mimic this handle with this extension. Okay, so here's what I managed, and I didn't do these extra grooves here. I don't think I need those. So I've got the slot in there. Try to get that into focus. So I've got the slot, I've got the little bump and the little round end, and I went and tried it on the truck, and sure enough, it engages, disengages. So I've got the groove for the O-ring. Next, I'm going to find a washer, and I'm going to weld a washer on there so it keeps the same distance, and that'll be ready to put in. Okay, so I've got that rod installed now. Let's give it a shot. So I'm just going to use a ratchet for an example. Give it a little pull here. We can see it's free. There we go. Now it's engaged. So I will have to make a little handle maybe. Maybe I'll cut another one and just make a little handle I can insert and rotate that. But I'm pretty happy with that. Now we can finally click it on there. Okay, so now it's time for electrical. Here I've got the little solenoid box opened up. Now this was designed to hook onto the rails on the top of the winch and just sit on top, but because of mine's rotated and I no longer have enough room to mount it on top of the winch, I'm going to make my own bracket, and I'm going to mount it just to the left, sort of behind where the winch is. I don't know if we can see through this hole here, but no, we can't. So it's going to be just above the winch and towards the back a little bit. It should be well protected. This is going to be pretty much waterproof. I'm going to put a bead of silicone all around it before I put it in there. Here we've got the plug for the hand control. So I'm going to plug that in for now, and that'll let me feed the winch in and tighten everything up. And I have a new switch on order, so I'm going to put a switch inside the truck with all my light switches for my hazard lights and stuff like that. And I'm also going to put a switch somewhere up here near the driver's side, maybe around here, so that I can operate the winch from inside the truck. But if I do just have to feed in to tighten up the winch alone, I can still reach a switch here and tighten that up and feed in and feed out how I need to. That way I won't need that remote at all. We've got a slight change of plans here. There's very little room with this new fuse that they have on here. I tried trimming a little bit here to see if I can fit this bracket, but as you can see, this bracket is pretty big, and I was going to put it in this direction, but with the fuse box cover opening up in that direction, it would have been in the way. Then I thought maybe I'll put it this way and just swing this a little bit, but it was still too tight. I couldn't fit it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to add a lug, and I'm going to run the wire out this way, and I'm going to put in a solenoid down here. So I'm going to connect it to the solenoid, and that's going to go to the winch. And I actually like this way better because I'm always concerned when I have a winch connected directly to a battery that if something were to go wrong in an accident or in water, or just, you know, a cheap solenoid going bad, that's directly powered, and you have a chance of burning up wires, catching your whole vehicle on fire. So that could happen still with a separate solenoid, but it's just one extra level of safety factor built in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire this so that I have a separate switch just to power the solenoid, and that's going to send power to the winch, and then I'll have the separate switch next to it to actually feed in and out. So I think this is going to work much better. So now I'm just going to connect all this stuff up, and we'll see how that works. Well, that was a little bit of work to get everything the way I wanted it. I had to trim a little more here, but I've got the positive coming right down here along the edge so that I can still open that fuse box. That comes down to the main plate, like bus bar for the relays or breakers. So the breakers here onto the solenoid, and I've got the solenoid feed wire wired up there, and that's going to go into a loom going with all the other controls. And then we've got power going outside of the solenoid down to the winch. So everything's quite tidy, and I tried to eliminate hot spots as much as possible. So this is a spot here that if a tool accidentally touched it, that could arc out. So I'm going to put something to cover that. And a little reminder, like I did here, that there's actually power there, and that's live, so that if a mechanic or someone besides me actually touches something here, we're not shorting stuff out. So definitely need some sort of little cover here, so I'll make something to cover that up. But again, it's live underneath, so that's why I got multiple rounds of tape here just to protect all of that from accidentally shorting out. But everything's nice and secure. We had body ground on that solenoid, so I had to sand that and bolt that nicely. I may actually ground it here. I have another ground for some other stuff. Might actually run a wire there and ground that too, just as a backup. So that looks good. I'm just going to trim the cap here so that that still fits on with that extra cable there. And that'll be it for the main power. We just have to connect the ground, and then we're going to set up and test the controls. There. So that works good. Now let's finish up the wiring. There, so we can see there, nice and clean, forward and reverse, and I made sure there's enough room that the hood isn't going to hit that, so that'll be alright. Plus, the winch power will have to be engaged anyway, that solenoid, so it should be alright. Alright, so I've got everything hooked up now. I've got my switch in, everything's working inside and out. So now we're just going to do a little test here in the yard. My driveway is just a little bit of a slope uphill, just a little bit. So I'm going to hook up to the tractor there and just going to leave the truck in neutral and just winch it up. It's not going to be a hard pull, but at least make sure everything's functioning right. Well, looks like that winch is working great. Should come in real handy when I'm out in the trails or out in the woods or maybe doing a recovery. Well, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do, and I'll see you in the next one.